Hey, Previews World. I'm here in Las Vegas with Todd McFarlane.
Hey, how you doing today?
How's it going, man?
Good.
So you've made history quite a few times before, and now you're about to break records with Spawn 300, right?
300 will be will tie the record.
Yeah.
And so the record that I keep talking about is Dave Sims' Cerebus. When I remember when we were both younger, he came out with that black and white aardvark book.
Oh yeah,
And it was awesome. It was awesome. And he vowed he was going to do 300 issues, and true to his word, he did. He did 300 and then he quit.
Yeah.
And so 300 will tie the record for the longest running in creator-owned book on the planet. On the planet, not
right,
in comic books in America, and on the planet.
On the planet, right.
And then 301 really to me is the one, because that's the new record setter.
Right.
And so those two books are going to be linked. 300 and 301 are going to be linked in story.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the genesis of like just Spawn, because at 300, like, you know, there's a lot of history there. A lot of fans know the character inside and out, but I think it's always fun to kind of get origin stories. So like, where did the character come from? Like, was it born out of necessity? Was it born out of like, you know, just flights of fancy? Like, what was it?
So, you know, I said before, I created Spawn when I was in high school, right? So when I was trying to break into comic books and I was, you know, trying to draw Superman and Batman and Spider-Man. Also, when you're a young artist like that, you come up with your own ideas.
Yeah.
And I probably created 20 characters. But the one that I always sort of was attached to was Spawn. I've always said, ultimately, at its core, Spawn really is just me. If I had superpower, right? Yeah. So there's no coincidence that the whole genesis of the story is this guy basically coming back for the love of his life, right? And her name is Wanda. My wife's name, coincidentally, is Wanda.
Coincidentally.
And so I just go, okay, if I got hit by a bus, I would trade everything to say goodbye one last time. And then, but in that moment of trading to say that goodbye, what if you basically made a bad trade with somebody, but because you weren't thinking, because you just go, I just want to say goodbye to my family. And it sort of sprung from that. And then how do I now take that concept, which we've all heard, you know, sold your soul to the devil,
right? Yeah.
And then put it into a fantastic sort of superhero backdrop. When I created the character, I actually drew a comic book, and we're going to be releasing some of those. I did about a 40-page comic book that I began because I go, if nobody's going to give me a job, I'm going to put out my own Spawn comic book. But the difference was that it was against the backdrop of science fiction, and because Star Wars, this is how far back it was the first Star Wars movie was coming out, and so no, just in terms of sci-fi, people like sci-fi, so I'll put this story of Spawn and the love of his life and getting killed and trading, you know, his soul, I'll put that in a sci-fi setting. Okay. When in 1992, when we started Image Comic Books, then I do the exact same story, except I put it in a modern setting.
In a modern setting, okay. So early on during the run, you brought in other creators. Like, what was like the thought process behind that? Was that like, you know, was that something that you were like, I don't want to write and draw at the same time, or like, was there something, or are you just trying to open up the character, see if like you could kind of like branch out? Like, what brought that on?
I think it was issues 8, 9, 10, 11 or something. I brought on 4 writers.
Yeah, you got some heavy hitters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were all some of the top people with that, and one of them was Dave Sims, who was doing Cerebus. Yeah. I did it really for one reason. At the beginning of Image, I don't know if you remember, because I'm much older than you. There's a lot of criticism that the company was formed by nothing but artists, and that we were self-indulgent and we didn't really respect the medium, and it was just art. And so for me, I go, well, here, I'll answer that. I'll counterpunch that, that criticism. I'll bring on 4 of the top people, and I'll put them on Spawn, and I'll let them basically tell whatever story that they want to do, or they can have a conversation with me. So that was it. I think after that, maybe Grant Morrison did some stuff before Issue 20. And then the odd time there's been somebody sprinkled in there, but the vast majority of the issues I've been involved in. Yeah.
So how did Greg Capullo get involved? Like, how did that he was doing X-Force prior to like working on Spawn. Yeah. Like, did you approach him, or? I've
always looked at young artists as sort of like talent and trying to scout them. Yeah. I know it's difficult to get sort of some of the top people because they're already established and making more money. They got the books, and they're going to be a little bit harder to pry away. But as a scout, what you're looking for is somebody that you think in 2 or 3 years will then sort of flourish into a superstar.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at Greg's early stuff, and he'll be the first to admit it too, is that it obviously wasn't nearly as refined as it is today. But I could just see for a young guy that his storytelling and his pacing and his energy on the page was really good. And now I thought if I could give him a couple of pointers along the way, that maybe he'd be able to take that and he would grow, right? Yeah. Let me tell you, we're now way decades past that. Not only did he take some of those lessons and add to his own immense talent, but I don't know, again, there was this old show called Kung Fu. And at the beginning of it, he'd say, if you can snatch the pebble from my hand, grasshopper, right? Greg Capullo is my grasshopper. He has far exceeded anything that I ever thought. I mean, I thought he'd be great. I didn't think he'd be a superstar that he flourished into. And although he's a friend of mine, I say it with all honesty, Greg Capullo is the best artist in the business today. And for storytelling, for just drawing dynamics, and then for the body of work that he's put together. There's nobody right now in the industry that rivals him. When you put it all together, he's the best. He's the best in the business.
No, absolutely. So I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit.
Okay.
Favorite Spawn story not written by you, and that could be anything. It could be the TV show. It could be it could be Sam and Twitch.
Brian Bendis did some early Sam and Twitch stuff with Alex Malee. And Alex Malee was fantastic. That I thought was just good, gritty detective stuff, right? It was a nice backdrop against what we had been doing for so long on Spawn. And part of building a mythology and having people interested is you have to be able to give them different tastes and different looks at things. And then Paul Jenkins did a one-shot that took place in an apartment building that I thought was super cool. I think Ashley Wood was doing the artwork on that. There was even a short run on Hellspawn that was Brian Bendis and Ashley Wood. So it was like good writing and good artwork. It looked super cool. Way different than the writing I would have done, and very different than the artwork style that I had.
Right. So another question. You wrote as Will Carlton for a while?
Will Carlton, that's right.
What was that about? Why did you do that?
Because there's always these weird moments that I've done, right? so people were sitting there going, Todd, you don't know how to write, you don't know how to write, you don't know how to write. So I go, hey, I'm going to write under a pseudonym, Will Carlton. And it was funny because then when I put Will Carlton's name on the book, then all of a sudden I was reading these reviews going, finally, Todd's bringing on a good writer. I don't know where he came from. He said he came from the book industry. And now we've got some good, solid storytelling, blah, 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 blah. So what to me was happening was the critics, the haters, they just go, Todd's an artist, he's not a writer. And they just have it sunk in their minds. So I go, how do you do it, right? I mean, again, people have also asked me, are you going to renumber Spawn? Are you going to do a number one? The answer is no, I will never do it. But I've thought about before, and I may even still do it because I'm just immature at times. I may actually take, at some point, my book and have two numbers on it. The ongoing number, and then in the corner, a number one. And then the next month, the ongoing number, and then a one in the corner. And if the reason you're buying the book is because of a number, it's absurd to me, right? So cover up then the 362 number, which I'm going to get to at some point, and look at the one, if that's what it takes. Because what's absurd is that even if I renumbered it, it would be the same writer, the same penciler, the same inker, and the same storyline, and everything in the same character. But it's got a number one on it. Now, people say, well, it's a good jumping on point. Again, I find that to be absurd. Because why? If that was true, nobody would go to a New York Yankees game. Why? They'd walk in and they'd go, I never got to see Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle. I've missed all those other games. How could I possibly get into this game today where we've got Aaron Judge playing and we've got CC Sabathia? I missed it. No. What are you talking about? People jump in the middle of records from bands, in the middle of TV shows, in the middle of sporting events. Of course they can jump into the middle of a franchise, and then you can go back. And if that's the hurdle, leading up to 300. Issue 296 and 297 is a recap of the 300 issues. Read those 2 issues and you will be caught up and you can hit the ground running.
Perfect.